Hello and welcome to another episode of Anchoring Hope, where we're shining the light in these last days by interviewing incredible leaders that are making a change with the organizations they lead. And today we have with us Joe DeLong. Joe, welcome to the show.
David, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So is it Joe or is it Joseph?
My given name is Joseph, but most people call me Joe. So.
Wonderful. Joe, for the audience, can you give me your full name? Where do you live and what do you do for a living?
Yeah, well, my full name is Joseph Allen DeLong. I live in Guilford, Connecticut, which is a beautiful town right along the shoreline. And I work out of New Haven, Connecticut, but I work across the entire state. I'm the executive director and chief executive officer of a group known as the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities.
And what does that mean? A conference of municipalities?
Sure. So municipalities is a fancy word for a town or city. Connecticut is a unique state that it does not have any county government systems. So we don't have any associations of county officials or county commissioners associations or things that a lot of other states have. We have 169 individual towns and cities. That is all of our local government. And I run the association that those towns and cities are members of. So I do state and federal lobbying and advocacy work on their behalf. I also do a lot of data. When I say I mean the organization. Obviously, It's certainly not all me. But CCM does a lot of data and research. We do a lot of training and workshops. We train a lot of newly elected officials, on what they have to do to be able to effectively run public meetings or to do their jobs, that sort of thing. We look at best practices all across the country and sometimes across the world. And we also have some services that we provide that most of these cities and towns may be too small to get a good value on the market by themselves. So we do a lot of joint purchasing. A lot of them buy their energy, their electricity and things like that through us, through an energy purchasing program we have. And we provide the workers' compensation and property casualty liability insurance for most of the cities and towns across Connecticut.
That is amazing. Is this a non-for-profit or a for-profit organization?
Yes, well, technically it is what they call in the IRS codes Section 115, which technically stands for an instrumentality of government. But we are private. We are very much like what you would think of as a nonprofit, like a 501c3.
That is amazing, though, because the fact that you are private but you're serving government, that means that anybody else can come in and bid for your job, right?
Yeah, well, they can't come in and bid for it necessarily. I have a private board. My board is made up, an elected board every year of municipal CEOs. So mayors in Connecticut, we have these things called first selectmen. That's not a term that's used broadly across the country, but a first selectman is essentially a mayor of a small town. And then we have some towns that their CEO is not an elected official, but is actually a professional town manager. So my board of directors is made up of a mix of those Democrats, Republicans, big cities to small towns. And it's, again, mayors, first selectmen, and then town managers.
I love this channel because I am the first one that gets to learn so much from my guests. I never knew that such an organization existed. As you said, it's quite different from the other states, right?
Well, there are 49 people in the country who do what I do. Every state in the United States has one of these leagues, except for Hawaii, because Hawaii only has one city, so they only have one city government. But we are one of the more robust leagues in the country in a very small state, simply because we don't have the other government structures. So, some of my colleagues who do this work in other parts of the country, they also have a county government structure, which has its own association, or they have like a sheriff's association and a county commissioners association and all these different groups. Because we don't have that, we're sort of the only show in town, which makes us very large in the services that we provide to be very robust.
That's wonderful. By the way, I love the state of Connecticut. It's one of my favorites. And it's very close to me. I live in Ontario. So,
Yes, yeah, it is very close. Absolutely.
so tell me, how did you manage to get to that level? I would like to take a time machine, if you will, and go back in your life, because I know that sometimes we start our lives wondering what the Lord wants for us. If you're of faith, or maybe you come upon your faith on your career or on your path, and that changes everything, right? So what was for you? Where were you in the last day in high school? What was your dreams as a teenager, as an early adult?
Well, I was a Division I college football player, and so I was very blessed in that regard because, well, I came from a family that prioritized education, and education mattered. And I was fortunate that school came fairly easy to me. By easy, I could get B's without doing a whole lot of anything. I didn't love going to school. It wasn't a passion of mine, and I don't know if I would have even gone to college. I can't say either way had it not been for athletics. But I went to college for athletics, greatly enjoyed that. And, we can walk through the process, but leaping to today, many of the lessons that I learned on how to work as a team, how to work with other people, how to recognize that you're stronger as a group, and that other people, that you're dependent upon other people's success to succeed. Many of those lessons I learned as an athlete. I learned as being a part of a Division I football program that wasn't just about me, but it was about, everybody that was around me. So I think that's continued to benefit me today. And then, I did a variety of different things out of school, but out of high school when I came out of college, but the really interesting part of my story that very few people, or probably nobody in history, could ever tell is let me back up just a hair. I was in the state legislature. I became the youngest state house majority leader in the history of the state of West Virginia. And I got out and I was working in the private sector, and the governor of West Virginia at the time, who was a friend of mine, talked me into coming back. But here's the really unique part of that story. When I was working in the private sector, I was running a chain and expanding and opening up new locations of very high-end luxury salons and spas. And when I got convinced to leave that work to come back to the West Virginia to government work, it was to take over the jail and prison system.
The complete opposite.
Yeah. So I went from running high-end salons and spas to running jails and prisons as the transition, which not too many people can say they've ever done that, if anybody can. And then essentially, I did what I had set out to accomplish in those systems. They were troubled systems. They had a lot of, long-standing audit problems, a lot of things I won't bore you with, but there's a lot of challenges. Got through those challenges, and one day out of the blue, I had a recruiter call me and said, "Hey, are you looking?" And I said, "I'm not really looking, but I'm willing to listen." And he started telling me, he was interesting. He said, "Well, there's two positions I'm recruiting for. One is in New Haven, Connecticut, and the other is in Raleigh, North Carolina." And my response to him was, "Well, you can tell me about the one in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm not going to New Haven, Connecticut," because I was looking to go south, not north.
Right.
So another interesting turn. He convinced me to come up for the interview. I will tell you, David, I don't know how many interviews you've had to do in your life, but if you go and do an interview and you don't even think you want the job, it's the most relaxing interview in the world.
Yes.
You're probably really on your best game because you have no stress and no nerves. And so I came up, I really just wanted to see the campus at Yale. I wanted to learn a little bit about Connecticut's government structure because I knew it was different, but I didn't know much about it. And I just, sort of making a road trip out of it. And after spending a couple hours with the hiring committee and learning the challenges and the opportunities and seeing the passion of these local leaders that were hiring for this position, I went from not even knowing if I was interested in the job to really hoping that I would be asked to take it. And so it was definitely a fortuitous situation for sure, and not a path in my life that I ever thought I would take, but certainly not one that I've ever regretted taking. I work with some really amazing, talented, just beautiful people, and we do really important work. Our work is rewarding, and I've been here about a decade now, and feel truly blessed to have had this opportunity.